Big 20 goal of Japan course, the NES Open. I am by no means an expert at this game, but I do have a good understanding of a lot of the different mechanics to it, and hopefully this information helps those struggling with this goal while they're practicing. It is not an incredibly difficult game to beat for the goal, and as long as you keep some kind of an iron or are willing to take a huge stroke penalty, very completable run for the Big 20. But if you want to go fairly fast at it, this guide should help in accomplishing that. I am averaging around 12 minutes a run per course, so I'd like to think it's not a terrible guide. It's not world record quality, but it's gonna be fairly well. Even with taking time to consider each shot more than I normally do in a run, a 15-minute run is easily possible, I believe, with the same strats. A lot of it's just getting used to doing what you can on the fly. Oh, it all starts with going to the clubhouse, and I will explain that right now. We have, most important thing, gotta register your name right? Not really, but hey. First and foremost, choose your clubs. This is the loadout I use on mine. I know NES Cardinality uses the 3-iron rather than the 5. It can come in handy, but I'm not used to the distance difference of the 3-iron or the 4-iron compared to the 5. The 5 is about 186, I think, which only is a problem on like one hole for the Japan course, because it's right at the edge of that range, so you'll end up with a 5-iron if you just mash through instead of the 1 wood to do a partial drive with. But the reason why I would suggest at least a 5-iron, 3-iron, or if you're really worried about it, a sand wedge, is bunkers. A 5-iron I find is decent enough to get me out of there without having to go more than half power on everything except for a deep bury. A deep bury I might have to go half or more to get out of the bunker, but a 1 wood can get you out of the bunker, but you have to go full bore, full force, or you're not getting it out, and that's not ideal. So for sake of a safety for the race, I would strongly recommend an iron or a wedge to get out of bunkers, and just switching to the 1 wood whenever you can. There is reasons for that, and I will go over them in a little bit, but primarily it is because the wood in the driver will have a lower height on the swing, and you'll reach your destination faster than you would with an iron, because those pop the ball up in the air, and you have longer flight time versus distance traveled. Just biggest reason why I don't use the sand wedge is because that has a huge pop-up and very little distance travel. So you're going to be waiting for that ball to drop back down up for quite a while. Third category that we need to set is in the options. BGM, you can turn it off or on. I like it on. The music's not bad. Default for shot swing. I strongly recommend getting used to fast. There is one hole in particular that a full power fast swing is pretty much guaranteed to get you over the out of bounds, and that is hole 14. My default for putt swing, I am super used to medium. fast is what world record uses, but I am not used to the speed difference of the swing. I occasionally use it if I have a long putt. That is, this just sets the default, so anytime you take a new shot, this is what it goes to without any changes. And then default for ball spin, I keep mine on back 2. I never change this unless I was slapping up, and I would go to back 1 when I was changing clubs, because I will change clubs a lot, so I don't use my iron when I'm too close to the pin, because I'm trying to get used to the 1 wood strats and avoiding the bunkers. But back 2 will stop your ball a lot sooner. It makes a huge difference. Back 1 is not bad, but you will lose distance with the back 2. About 10 more yards-ish, I think 12 more like, because this only goes in multiples of 4 on what it shows for distance. Between back 1 and back 2, normal is about a 20-yard difference. I'll obviously win depending, because we're going to be doing a lot of different. I'm going to try and get as much practice on the holes as possible to show kind of like what's really going on with this and how to kind of direct your shots a little bit easier and understanding what just happened. So that covers the basic stuff of pre-game things. This is saved to your file, so you don't have to worry about setting this every time, as long as you don't go to clear save data. Let's go ahead and start a Japan course. There are a few factors of randomization that are dealt with in each time. That is your wind factor, wind direction, and your pin placement. There are, I believe, 3 different spots the pin can end up on the green per hole. Always starting out, your pointer is always directed straight at the pin, so you don't have to adjust too much, if at all. What's neat about Japan course versus the other 2 is you can get away with just mashing through and selecting your club and not change your direction if you're consistent enough on your swings. Because every hole does not have a sharp turn, but left and right shifts our cursor. Pretty simple. Up and down changes our speeds. You'll also notice fast is 286 on a 1 wood, medium is 260, and slow is 234. With backspin 2, you're going to cut off about 12 to 16 yards off of that, depending on wind. Your wind factor is going to either help or hinder you in terms of what direction you're going to go after the shot, if you hit it straight on the marker, or if you're a little bit skewed off that marker. Now, I'm going to go on the fast swing, since that's what I'm used to, but like I said, I always stick with backspin 2. Backspin will cut the ball up short and occasionally roll backwards once you're on the green. It does sometimes when you're not on the green roll back, but not too often. It really depends on if you were using an iron or a wood. A wood typically just stops very soon, with a tiny bit of a chance for a rollback, but an iron almost always will roll back a little bit. Now you can see the white indicator where the arrow is. That is the straight shot marker, so we're going to be pressing A 3 times, once to start Second press is your power setting, which the further left you go, the higher power you have on the swing. And then your final tap, you want to hit as close to that little white line as possible. Welcome in, looking for giants. Then with that, that'll also determine if you have a hook or a slice, which can be used to counteract wind. But if you have max power and a straight shot with a 1 wood, you will get a super shot if you are on the tee or the fairway. That will add about 20 yards, give or take, depending on wind, where the ball ends up. So I'm not great at getting super shots consistently, but I am fairly decent at keeping the ball straighter and hitting that white mark kind of close. But the fast will go very fast. I'll go ahead and do one now. Hopefully I can get the super to demonstrate, but if not, I'll get one eventually. Yeah, so we're going to have a little bit of a hook since we were late to the white marker. And we end up to the left, especially with that downward left wind. It increased how far it was going to the left. Now, in my case, I would do medium, and I would already be on the wood because if I'm on the 5-iron, that's 170. If I were on fast, it would be 187, which would automatically set me to my 5-iron. I want medium because I want this low arc, faster shot. The trick with using this strat is you want to curb how much power you're putting into this. However, it is about I'm trying to think of how to put this. Half power is actually about a third power, or a third of the distance traveled. When you add in the factors for what kind of rough or bunker you're in, that reduces that even more. And if you're using a wood in the rough or bunker, there is a distinct possibility you're going to lose about half of your arc, which is the random factor, which will greatly cut what your ball is going to do in terms of distance. You can always see your lie by hitting B while you're on the overview. You can see this is deep rough, so I have about a 20% reduction starting distance. There is a 5% variable in this that is RNG factor. And then there is the randomness factor on top of that. I usually don't concern myself with it too much because I'm just going to smack this thing as quickly as possible. The only thing I look at is what direction my wind is and kind of how hard it's going. So I have a 6 wind to the left. I'm going to give it a light tap to the right. That should be enough to counteract it. If for some reason I messed that up and I went too far and I had already mashed through, you can still change here. Now, because I have a down or a wind that I'm fighting against, one way to reduce that is to hit up for a low ball. This will, however, give you a bounce forward if you're using backspin, and you're not going to stop quite as quickly. But again, it also depends on where you're going to end up at. This is going to end up in rough, so it's probably going to stop fairly quickly after that first bounce. A high ball will make us hit the wind a little bit more, and it will affect what happens to the ball a bit more. Exact data, I don't know. But I want to go a little bit to the left because I did intentionally move this one further to the right. We want to avoid these trees. I want this to be a little over 2/3 power, probably closer to 4/5. So we have enough distance and oomph to get past the reduction in distance from the deep rough. I put on a lot more slice than I wanted, And there was the randomness factor taking effect. It cut my distance, plus it cut the height of the travel of the ball, so I lost quite a bit of distance. But I'm in a much better position now because of the massive slice or hook that I had on that shot. Alright, so I am within 50 yards. So this is where I consider to use the iron versus the wood. So that way I can get a better height chip and more of a bounce rather than a direct line on this. Now, obviously, eventually I'm going to have to get away from that, but for terms of Big 20, this is pretty much a good thing. I'm going to go to slow here, and then take the iron shot, leave the backspin on, because we want this to stop as soon as possible. We're going to want to hit, you can see that with the iron, my gauge now has a much wider marker for a straight shot. The irons give you a bit more control over your hook and slice, which is your left and right turning versus straight directional. So we're only going to want to go a third. We don't need a lot of power for a 50-yard shot. That was way hard because I'm overthinking things right now doing this tutorial. Again, we are a lot closer. This is going to be a lot faster of a tap, and I did adjust a tiny bit for wind. If you just need a tiny bit, just light taps. I often will do just tap the back of the controller with my thumb on the A button at a set pace, and it's usually right around the speed that I need to hit for the balls itself. So to kind of go over this one a little bit faster in the same way. That was a lot cleaner. No hook or slice. So we're going to be a little bit further ahead. Medium, not putter. I forgot about distance thing. That was randomness factor, cutting my distance, unfortunately. 50 yards is about the range where I consider the iron. I needed a little bit more power to get there, but that's fine. Now, for the greens, we have different arrows. The one that I'm currently sitting in is the lightest possible slope that we're going to have. I can only suggest to kind of partake in this game fairly regularly just so you get used to how the arrows operate. There is some that are apparently non-functional on the light tiny arrows that we have here. I want to say it's in the right slope direction, like straight right, that don't affect the ball at all. So I'm going to adjust a tiny bit to the left because I'm going to be coming up on the side of the hole, but because of the slope, it's going to counteract and push my ball in. The medium putt, I'm going to want to do close to half at this distance. I want to undercut that a tiny bit because I'm going to be going into that slope. So if we do a fast, this is going to be like a third. I did not move it, and that proves that I did need to tip this a tiny bit to the right. So a tiny bit to the right, fast, about a third, straight in. A little bit less than that power. I hit the slope a little bit too hard. This is why I'm not used to fast. So, tiny bit to the right, just one little tap. Now for a medium, which is what I'm used to, a tiny little bit to the right, but I'm going to go about a little under half. I didn't go to the right. There we go. Same thing. That was a pretty easy putt for this. You didn't need a lot of adjustment. You can always see what the green looks like if you want to. By going to select, going to the green, you'll get an idea of what's going on with where you need to try and put the ball if you're that accurate on it. Now, this hole in particular, hole 2, don't hit right. You have like a 3 pixel window on your arc before you hit this tree that's right in front of you. So if I go right where I'm at, you can see that tree is right there. I have not moved left or right. Hit B to back up. 1 tap, 2 taps. Look how close that tree is now. And we're already hitting it. Do not hit right. Even though you're trying to get to that fairway on the other side of the river, don't hit right. Can't stress it enough. This is the only real tricky hole in this run. So we're going to take this straight, fast speed. And if we want to get this to the right, we're going to want to put a little bit of a slice, which is an early hit to the marker. So that third stroke, or the third hit, is going to be a little bit sooner. A super shot is perfectly fine. It should keep you on the fairway or very close to it. We have a 4 downwind, so we're going to be losing a little bit of our distance, but not a lot, and a little bit to the left of where we are aiming at the pin from. So I'm going to try and go for a super or a little bit of a slice here. Now, this is one case where I would use an iron over a wood, simply because these trees will be in the way. I'm still going to do it fast because I'm over 100, and I'm going to be using an iron versus a wood on this shot, simply because I want that pop-up over these trees versus through the trees. See how we're like right in between? The wood can get through this, but you're going to have if you happen to hook or slice, you're most likely going to hit these trees and cut your shot short, and then you're wasting time that way. So we're going to want about 2/3 power, because fairway does no difference from a tee shot. I was a little bit overpowered on that. With this bunker's far enough away, a 5-iron has almost no problem getting out, unless you are in a deep, deep lie setting in the bunker. Right, I'm going to do a chip shot here. I think I set this to slow. It should be on slow. At 26 yards, I want a 5th, not even, of power. Just a reasonable slow tap. Like so. I prefer to do the chips in versus the putts because it's less thinking on how do I have to slope this, which way is this thing going to turn. As I've mentioned before, the nice thing about Japan course is you don't have to do any overworld adjustments on the left and right. You can adjust it completely on this screen here. So you can just mash through and not even think, aside from what club do I need, how fast do I want to hit this. I'm going a little bit to the right on this one. Keeps us on the fairway. If you just straight shot mash and just don't even bother, you're going to end up in the rough. and you're going to take another shot to get to the edge of the water or in the water to stop the ball a little bit faster. So we are almost at the edge of the range of the 1 wood. This is still a edge range medium shot, but with backspin we would be cutting this up short, which would end us in that rough or bunker if we didn't miss and hit the water on a medium speed swing. So we want fast on this particular case. I don't want full power, but I want near full power. And we want to keep this as straight as possible, if not a tiny bit of a hook, so a later swing is okay, but not too late. That is spot on onto the marker. We should just clear it. And with that backspin, it kept us out of the bunker. A 38 means I need a slow speed swing, so I get better control on how much power I throw at this. A little bit more than what I've been throwing at it for the other chip shots. And with that tiny bit of a hook, let me set up to the left of this hole. I only have to adjust a tiny bit, maybe 2 spots, because this thing's going to curve towards the top of the screen as I go on this incline. So by doing this, I'm going to have a bit more of a arc going into the putt, but I don't need to adjust much. I could probably even just go a little bit on the harder side and make the ball go in a bit faster, but for making sure it gets in there, I don't want a lot of power so it doesn't bounce out and wasting time for a second shot. Now this is one of the par 3s. We actually have a very good layout on this one. We have no wind, which means we want to get as close to the marker as possible on the swing. We can even do a medium swing here off the tee for better control, and backspin too. So my goal on this one now is to make sure I get to this marker as close as possible, but we don't want full force. We want to be about the 5th from the left, maybe the 4th, because of the backspin. Because backspin is going to put a little bit more arc on the ball and cut up our distance a little bit. And I missed that part, but that also sets us up for a very easy chip at that distance. We have a tiny bit of wind, not a huge factor, almost negligible for the chip shot. Maybe 4 or 5 bars at most. That was a little bit too hard, but it still worked out. That was probably because of the rough reduction, because I think that was deep rough on that shot. Now this hole, you don't want to just mash through and just straight shoot. This is one of them that's you can mash through and get to the shot screen, but hold left right after that. Because if you don't, you're going to hit the tree right in front of you. But if you hold far left, you're fine. Now, unfortunately, the way I put a tiny bit of slice on this put this tree directly in my way. So I'm going to go into a little bit more difficult of a strat. I'm going to keep the iron on this because I'm going to have the tree still in my way somewhat. But I'm going to give this thing a huge slice. So I'm going to hit this thing way early on the back after the power selector. I don't want full power, I want near full power. So I'm going to be doing a very rapid tap at the far left of the bar. That let me get around the tree and get a very good setup for this green. I move it a tiny bit to the right, so that way when the ball goes in, it's going to sink a little bit more towards the hole. I don't need a lot of power on this putt because I had good placement. I'm over here trying to slap my button I use for my timer. That's how used to playing this one I am anymore. Now this hole, with a 5 iron, it is right in the good range for a attempt at a hole-in-one. So it's possible with this wind layout to get a hole-in-one. It's going to be a full power fast swing, and I think a low might stand a better chance if we don't get full power. But since we're shooting pretty much directly into the wind, but we do have a little bit of a right effect based on the angle that we have towards the pin, I'm going to actually give it a tiny tap to the left. See how it's just a little bit to the right of the centered where the pin is. I want to go for full power, just see where this ends up. Well, almost full power. I'm aiming for that second to last bar, and then a straight shot from here. That's too much of a slice, which is fine for the chip setup. But let's see if I can get that hole-in-one. Nope, too hard. That might be good. Now that wind's cutting it more than I was anticipating. Just a tiny bit. So we're going to end up short regardless of it with a mid shot. So if we go low, which is going to reduce the effect of the wind on this shot, it's going to give us a big bounce. So we're going to probably bounce over the green at full power. Yep. But we need a bit less power. My slice is going to definitely interfere a bit, but we're going to be on the green with that one. This gives me a good chance to demonstrate the slope a bit more. I'm going to put my crosshairs right in between those two, because that's the third thickest arrows. These little tiny itty bitty light arrows have no bearing on your shot direction, or very, very, very little bearing. So if we ended up over there, we don't even think about how those are going to affect it, because it's going to be so slight, it's not going to matter. It might move a pixel in the direction if we were in that way, but not much at all. So we're going to want about half on a medium, not even half, a little bit less than that, because we're going to be downward slope, so it's going to actually increase the speed of the shot. I moved a little bit too much, or had too much power. But since we are almost directly in line, we don't have to make any further adjustments and just hit a little bit harder than what is anticipated. So here we got our first par 5. We don't have to adjust, but we can go to the left a little bit. I did not check our wind. We have a backwind, which means this is one of the situations where we want to even do a high ball, because we're going to catch the wind a little bit more in our shot, which will push it a little bit further faster. Now a little bit of a hook here is fine, because that'll put us just past that tree. Our pin placement should keep us good there. Yeah, we don't have the tree in our way. We have almost a full power shot going into this. We can even do a little bit to the right to compensate for that wind, but we don't have to. I'm aiming for the rough around the green just so I have an easy chip. But backspin stops the ball a lot sooner. Excuse me. So we can get to the next shot a little faster. We don't need a lot of power. And that's like a no think, just quick tap chip shot or putt. This hole's kind of fun because this wind is actually a decent wind for us. We don't need to move the marker as much as you think you do. You really don't, because you can eagle this hole very easily as long as you go a tiny bit to the right on this screen. Just a tiny bit. You don't need a lot. Even if you end up in the bunker, you can still make it to the green or very, very close to it. So we want to full power this thing. Super shot is preferable, but honestly, you want full power or very, very close to it. Okay, my wind kind of kicked my butt there. But you can see that it was very, very close to getting over that. So the way to counteract that is we can go harder to the right here. This is going to send us to the bunker with that wind. Or very close to it. Now that wasn't even full power. Yo, Thumbros, welcome in. Okay, we got a nasty little tree here. So what I'm going to do is try and full send this and put a massive hook on it. It's risky because I'm going super late on the swing, so I could potentially miss the swing entirely. But as you can tell, it got us around the tree fairly well. Sets us up for a decent chip. Now you'll see the dark arrows on some of these greens. The darker arrows are a lot steeper of a slope that you're dealing with. So you'll have to compensate a little bit more per each one. Obviously, the larger the arrows, the steeper the slope. But the darker the arrows is the next category up from the larger arrows. So it's light gets larger, dark gets larger. That is about how steep you're dealing with on the greens. The only difference is the super large light green is about the same as the second smallest dark green. So it's a little bit bigger than what you would anticipate, but not much. Always think that it's going to do a little bit more than what it's not. It's hard for me to explain the putts because I kind of saw it too. So this one I did move a little bit to the right just to help get to the fairway a little bit more. Because we want to make another easy fairway shot on this hole. I end up in the bunker a lot because I just mash through, but this is also a bunker shot that's very easily fixed with a driver as well, because we're going to full send out of that bunker, we're going to hit the water, and then we'll do a chip to the green. But full power, little bit of a slice, sets us up really easily on the fairway. Now this is the point where I switch to medium, so I have a bit more control over how much power I give it. I did a single pixel tap to the right to adjust for the wind. I don't want to do more than that with a 2-mile-an-hour wind. That's slightly to our left. So we don't want full power. We want about 4/5 because we're going to lose a good chunk of distance to this backspin. And we don't want to land in the water because we have a good chunk of water in between us and the green. So we do want to kind of put a tiny bit more power than we normally would to get this onto the green. With the driver and a backspin, this thing's going to stop very quickly on the green, which is what we want to quickly. Point in case. And ironically, we ended up in a straight putt to the hole. That is ideal. The more you get in line with the slope to the hole, the easier it is to make the putts. Now this one, I'm not even going to bother adjusting. I kind of want to end up in the rough in the trees. Alright, we're going to full send this. Hopefully get a super. If not, no big deal. This is going to get us just past the tree. We can go a tiny bit to the left here. About 2 taps to compensate for the wind. Medium. I probably should use the iron, but I'm going to switch to the 1 wood. Once I hit that 50 is when I'm like, I really want to use the iron more. But you know, I'm also trying to get myself more used to the 1 wood strats. So we're going to be hoping to hit this a little bit sooner so we get a slice. Because 2 taps with a 1 wood to the left is not going to give us enough to counteract the wind. Because this thing's not going to be affected by the wind too much. So we are going to want close to 2/3 power. I know it seems like it's overkill, but that's with the rough plus the chance at the random height cut from rough. We're going to end up on the green, most likely, with a 2/3 power shot. Or very, very close to it. I'm going to overshoot this one intentionally just so we can play around on the putts. I overshot it a little bit too much. So, that actually gives us a chance to talk about bunkers. Right now, this is light bunker depth. So we have about a 30% reduction on everything, and with an iron, a 20% chance at random. If this was a driver, we'd have a 40% chance at random. It practically doubles the penalty on the random factor, or the chance at the random factor. I see that bar would be 50 yards. I'm not quite sure what the question is on that one, Thumb Bros. I wasn't trying to make it in, but... That's why I like... Yeah. I'm just kind of estimating based off of the distance that the club is capable of, minus 20 because of my backspin too. And then I take the percentage of that for what my lie is, which fairway tee is 0. You don't have to worry about any of that factor for that. Rough is 10%, deep rough is 20. Light bunker is 30, medium bunker is 40, deep bunker is 60. Give or take a 5 to 10% variance depending on iron or wood. in that order. Randomness factor is the height reduction and distance reduction. On top of that, woods are a lot more affected by that than they are for irons. So iron is like a 5% chance random factor for rough, maybe 10% for deep rough. Not you almost never have to worry about random factor for irons in rough. Woods though I would almost anticipate not getting the height you think you were gonna get. And because less height and a backspin means your distance is going to be greatly hit if you hit that random chance. But again, just smacking the ever-living crap out of it is going to get you where you want to be most times. Yo, welcome in. How do you play live? Okay, so obviously full send this. That 6-mile-an-hour wind definitely cut down some of our distance. And we now have a straight down 8. Yay. This is definitely a case where I'm going to go medium swing so I can control the power output. I want the one wood so we get a lower arc so we're not hit by this wind as much. I might even do a low swing. You can see me switching low, high, mid. Mid is static on this. Up is low, down is high. That is basically high is to pop it up, low is to keep it lower arc, which is a low ball will counteract backspin. It gives us one giant spin and then a small roll after with backspin too. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a low ball at 2/3 to 4/5 power because we need to get past this deep rough and we're probably going to get hit by random factor. And we did. Low ball gives us a huge roll, so we end up in the bunker behind. Always this close, slow. Slow will give you the best control over your power. Now, if I go too light on this, I'm just going to keep burying my ball in the bunker and not get anywhere. So we want to at least do 1/3 power, regardless. If 1/3 does not get out, try half. If half doesn't, just full send. Just don't even bother trying to chip it in from the bunker. Just full send it out, get it out of there, and try it from a different position. Yeah, on the putt, you don't see the distance to the pin, but this is the third largest, or the third smallest incline, so we don't have to factor in too much distance, but we are going to actually go to put our cursor on this, close to this arrow here. Generally, yes. The greens are almost always less than 30 yards in size. You can putt from the outside of the green if you're that close. I prefer not to because it's very hard to anticipate what I'm dealing with on the green. So I could be just greatly overshooting, and the swing speed is a lot faster on the not green putts. Even because you're probably going to end up on fast or medium, but that gauge goes super quick on the shot screen. So we're going to want maybe half, not even, on this putt. Oh, I've moved it a little bit too far. Just a tiny bit. And boom. Putting is not my strong suit. Now this is the tricky hole, but again with Japan course you can mash through and make your adjustments here. Full left keeps us clear as long as we don't slice. So we'll hook it. Even if it's a little hard of a hook, you're fine. That was a very serious hook on that shot, and I still ended up on the fairway. I'm going to compensate for the wind a tiny bit on this one, and probably not full send, but close to it. This is going to probably end us in the bunker. Medium. All right. So we slow shot this. We have wind at our back, so we don't want to overpower this, but we still want to get it out of the bunker. That was random on that one. That greatly cut down the height off that shot. So we have a solid right of the second lightest. So we actually have a decent chunk of arc gonna happen to this putt. I actually probably want to do one more. I want minimum of half power on a medium putt here. God. This is why my putt game sucks. That is one thing I need to really, really work on, is my putts. But me screwing up is showing that, no, we're seeing what goes wrong, how to adjust, how to fix it, and how to make up for what's probably going to happen on race day and panic that ensues on that. I made a tiny adjustment for the wind. I kept the 5-iron on this hole. This is going to end up a little bit beyond the green if we go full power, so we want to cut it back a tiny bit. And I didn't. So we're going to end up in that bunker, probably. But this is why I like the 5-iron. Because it's really good at getting me close to the pin on all the par 3s. There's one that it does not. And that is, I think, hole 15 or 16. I'm not 100% on off the top of my head. But a little bit higher power chip gets us really close. Now we want to compensate a little bit. This green is probably the trickiest green to deal with because it's straight each direction. I'll go ahead and finish this hole though. There it is. Alright. As I said, this hole is probably the trickiest one, but it's also the simplest one. As long as we full power this, even with this terrible wind, you can make it over the out of bounds. As long as we full power this. And it's got to be a fast swing. If you are not comfortable with fast swings, go right, use medium like you normally would, and go for the fairway. Fast can get over this. Backspin 2 is fine. Just to prove it, I've done a save state, so I'll kind of show a little bit more about exactly how wind can cripple or make better on some shots. Now this is medium. I'm going to try and full power this, if not super shot. We are a tiny bit less than full. 8. Just barely cleared. We are on like the last pixel on that. But that was one bar, or one tiny bit less than full power. If that had been a 9, we'd have probably out of bounds. Now, you saw where we ended up on the almost full power. If I lowball this, try and hit the same amount, We got a super. Low did a wonderful job of just completely clearing it on top of the super. Now I'm going to try to intentionally not super this one, but still get near full. We hooked a good chunk. But that was way less than low power. Or most max power. That's not what we want to happen. We need full. I get it when I want it, and I get it when I don't want it, and don't get it when I want it, of course. Okay. Full power, but we kind of hooked it. That bounce sent us completely out. You can see we are a good chunk further out than if we had done a mid ball. And the worst case scenario, highballing this. Okay, it made a liar out of me. Like I said, I am no expert, but I have a decent understanding of it, and this one's confounding me a little bit why the high ball ended up further out than the low. Probably because of the amount that the backspin affected it. That's the only assumption I can make. But from here, we're in a decent spot to chip. We can even do a wood chip at this distance pretty easily. We're going to want to do about half power because we are in deep rough and this thing is going to cut our flight height by a lot. Even overshooting it is fine because that sets us up for a much straighter shot, a lot closer to the pin. Like so. This hole is pretty straightforward and simple. Just smack it as soon as you get into here. Try and keep it a little bit to the left of where you start it. If you end up in the rough, it's no big deal. I will switch to a medium one wood shot here versus the iron and do another almost full. Sets me up for a decent chip. That was definitely affected by random on that one because you saw that it just kind of like didn't get a huge flight path. Most of the times when I'm doing attempts, I don't factor wind too much. I will just smack it around. Okay, hole 16 is the one where the 5-iron is not a good club. This is the only one where the 5-iron is not a good club because on the closest pin position, it will auto-select to the 5-iron on you. And it will never make it to the green with a backspin. But we got the furthest pin position, so we're not going to have to worry about the 5-iron on this case. As I mentioned at the start, there are 3 different pin positions per hole. It is one of the random factors of the game, not a huge impact on the entirety of it. It's mostly notable for US hole 1, where you can hole in 1 on the very first hole if you get really lucky with wind and doing top spin. But this, we're going to want to go 4/5, 7/8. We don't want completely full power, but a good chunk towards that. I think our wind was negligible on this case. So we're not even going to factor in wind variance and just try and get this to the white line with near full, but not comparative to it. All right, this might end up in the water with that much hook. Nope. Easy chip from there. Always, always, always highly recommend doing slow on any near green chips. Gives you the best chance of control of your power so you don't overshoot. This green sucks too, I'll admit it. That is the worst incline you can have on a green. So that is going to greatly increase or decrease your speed depending on whether or not you are going into it or with it. The slope is crazy. So if I were to take this shot over here, I'm going to save this one just so that way I can demonstrate a bit more. I'm going to do a very light tap on my putt for medium. That is a 90-degree turn coming off that. Wild. So if I want to make this putt from here, I'm going to have to go around this point here at a little bit more power than I had that last shot. I can't even... My putting, guessing, is terrible. Just kind of throw it out there, mess around so you can see kind of how much this can affect stuff. That was too much power, but if I would have had the right amount of power, that would have went right in. Tiny adjustment, boom. Always try and overcompensate if you're not comfortable on putts, because then you can at least end up in a closer position. That was a little bit too little of power. Too little or too much? It's hard to tell from that. That was too little power. Just a hair or too little power. Alright, but that kind of gives you a good view as to just about how much that slope can really affect your shots. Alright, we have a worst case scenario for hole 17, which I'm sure any of you who have played realize this hole can be a massive pain in the butt trying to get this over. Neat trick though. I didn't change direction. Full power, light slice. Always over. Always over. Worst case, wind. Well, second worst case. Worst case is straight left on the 9. Gonna compensate a little bit for the wind factor here. And smack away. We did not get the random factor on that one, which is nice. Hole 18 is one of the few I will actually say we probably want to shift this to the left so we can aim for that fairway. We are aiming for the one beyond the lake. And we did not get that, but we might actually end up in the lake with that much slice. Or hook, yep. So, not a great start to 18. Let's use back that last save state. We can do 17 one more time. worst case. Goes to show that wind is only determined at the start, not based off the start of that run. So far right, full send. We might have a problem with that much hook. Oops. That was my own fault because I did not early cut for the slice. I accidentally hit it a little bit late. So we had a hook, which let the wind take it a little bit more. Oh, good. I'm going to save state this one. So full right. This is worst case scenario. We didn't go full power, but we did add slice to that right push. And we're already over on the other side of the water with the worst case scenario wind. So when in doubt, slice this hole after a full right on the shot swing. We're going to get a bit more of a bounce factor with irons versus woods. Woods will get a long bounce, if any bounce, but they're more likely to stop sooner because their height pattern is not going to happen a second time. Put chip in and we're done with 17 yet again. Alright, we got a better wind this time around. We're going to shift to the left. We can even highball this to try and catch the wind a little bit more. But we do want to hook, if anything, a little bit. Now we can highball this to make sure we get past the tree, I think. Find out. Yep. Again, it's a par 5, so we want to send this thing packing as much as possible. This is a decent wind factor for this kind of a shot. I'm going to do a half power swing on this to get past the random and get past the lower flight height. I didn't quite get to that PowerPoint, so we'll just use the iron to chip it close. I hope I was able to explain things in a way that people can understand on this one. I know it can be very wordy, but I did try to talk about points of how I approach this, and hopefully they are of some help to everyone else. I am by no means an expert, but this game is one of my favorites of all time. And I honestly hate most sports games, so this is just one of those games that stuck with me from my childhood, and I just absolutely love it. Was strongly considering doing this as a speed run before the Big 20 was announced, and this was literally my excuse to pick this up and go play it super hard. So this is part of the reason why I'm actually not participating in the Big 20, is because this game is too much fun versus the others, for me at least. But I will do my best to help, like I did with the last Big 20, in trying to break down what I know of the game that I know the most of, in hopes of helping other people understand it at least a little bit better. Alright. I'll do a quick show off and do a run, because why not? There we go. So I'm going to go through and do everything I just talked about as quickly as possible. Full send. Oh, we even got super on a high shot. This thing's going to go flying. We're going to be about 290. Oh, 300. Medium. We do not want near full power. About half should do. Nice. If I didn't have that hook on it, that would have been a chip in. I just mashed my way through. Yep, wind is random each hole per hole. And it is determined at the hole versus later. I do want the iron for this to chip it over. You can tell I don't really make any adjustments on the over screen. I will make all my adjustments for Japan course on the shot screen. We might be in the bunker to the right. Ooh, deep bunker, so this might be a problem shot. Slow, 5 iron, half. We are a good distance away. I wanted half, and I did not get half. That might be too hard. Nope, perfect. Not full. It might be too little. Just a light slap. Hard left. Slice if we can. This is literally how I'm going through these most of the time. Compensate. I compensated a little bit too much. No adjustment. You're full. We're going to be a little bit to the left of the green. Oh, not enough power to get to the green. That was a hole in one potential if I would have put more power on it. Too hard. Not hard enough. Or not enough adjustment. No adjustment needed. Power shot if possible. Hook if we want to. Same thing here. Little bit of a slice is not great, but we should have cleared this bunker. And good wind setup. We want a little close to half. Slight adjustment for the slope. About half adjustment. Ooh, that's a nasty little slice, but we are at least still on the median of the fairway. 182. We have the wrong club. That might be too hard. Nope, we're good. Ride that slope to get us a nice close shot. Come on, slope, cut this ball so it stops faster. Ugh, I hate that part. Lost a lot of time on that putt. little bit to the right. Full send if possible. Ride that wind. Bunker shot's fine. I will wood this thing out of there. A little bit to the left. Full send. Holy crap. Honestly, I was not expecting that close. Alright, that might keep us on the fairway. We're going to keep the iron shot because we're going to have a tree in our way. I'm fine with overshooting it a little bit. Good, we didn't end up in the bunker. Get in there. Nice. Honestly, just playing this like once or twice, like 1 or 2 runs every day or so, you'll see vast improvement just from exposure to, you know, how it moves. This is one of those games where practice does help a lot. Except on my putt game, because I've been playing this pretty much every day since the announcement. Left. I'm going to move it a little bit left to compensate so we don't accidentally hit a tree. Full send. Random factor. A little bit left, keep the iron, just so we get a little bit less random. And we're in the sand trap. Awesome. I had to overcompensate just to make sure that I cleared the ball out of the sand trap with the 5-iron. Shot in the dark putt. Holy crap. It's closer than I thought. Tiny bit shift to the right. Near full. I think we overcompensated to the right with the slice. Come on, backspin. Line me up a little bit more. I'll take that. Full send. Wood chip. There we go. You. Stupid tree. And we got hit by random factor too, and that's not great. I didn't put enough power. I should have probably left that on medium. Okay, we got the second pin placement, which also is the wood. Darn it. That's what I was afraid of. Medium bunker shot. Okay, we still got lucky with not getting stuck in there. 5 iron can have issues, but it's better than trying to use a wood to get it out without having to full power. You can get every club to get out of the bunker, but you need a lot more force to get them out with a wood. A little bit of compensation. Our wind is in our favor to get over. Defaulted to iron. So I was a little bit too close to the pin. The less power you apply, the less the backspin takes effect. We need to super hard send this to the right, or left rather. We are against that wind pretty bad. Alright, we should be clear of the tree at this spot. That might be out of bounds. It is. Okay, we want to hook this, not slice. Barely. Barely. Random. Not random. Water. In our case, the water shots are fine because that ends up stopping the ball a little bit faster for us. Yeah, it doesn't look great on the scorecard, but we're going for speed, not score. So that's the SRC timing on it. So 12 is honestly not bad. It's about 8 to 12 seconds, maybe a little bit more if you don't get the cutscene skip. Don't just sit there and mash on the beginning, because you could end up hitting A on the same frame it transitions, and then it just ignores your input to skip the Mario walking cutscene. So if you're going to do it kind of like quick taps just to mash through. But hopefully this was of some help to anybody watching it. As I said, I'm not an expert, but I do know a decent amount of this game.